why are you not on Survivor Winners at War?
I was invited, and I agreed to participate, and I went through all of the pre-show evaluations. What's really fascinating is some of the interviews that Jeff Probst has been doing lately, where he talks about, I don't know if he was even considered. That's just an outright lie. He knows I was considered, and in fact, they paid for my physical and my pre-production work. So, there's no question about it. They invited me. I did all the prep work. I was cleared, and then I was told, specifically, you were in. Everybody who was in charge of deciding who wants to come, I was the only participant who, every single one of them, wanted me to participate. And then 2 days before the show, 2 days before I was scheduled to fly out to California, they called and told me, and they called Tina the same day, the second winner, and told us that the show is paused. I said, I don't believe you. And the director of casting said, I told them you wouldn't believe me. And I said, I don't. And I never heard from them again.
Any speculation as to why?
Yeah, season 39, there was all kinds of blowback from how what was presented and when or whether they should have removed a player from the game. And I think they didn't want any more conversation about that, and I would have brought it up. And I think what's happening is they're trying to scapegoat me and avoid responsibility. The whole incident in 39 was about sexual harassment, and 16 years ago on All Stars, they presented an edit, kind of a tease, in order to get people coming back the next episode, that looked as if I engaged inappropriately with somebody else, this chick, Sue Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, she had decided to approach me intentionally to instigate something, and I never touched the woman. But she screamed and yelled in the way she's very much known for. The next day, I had already been voted off, so I didn't even know any of it even happened, none of it, until the show aired. And we all went and watched all 4 cameras, all 4 views, just to make sure that my perspective was accurate, and she and her lawyer and everybody else learned that it was, and that I did nothing, that everything was initiated by Sue, and there was no wrongdoing on my part. So that conversation definitely would have come up again if they'd brought me on to Survivor season 40, but they should have. That was the responsible thing to do, and they could have talked about the difference between, let's say, being naked and sexual harassment, and why they've changed the rules, if indeed they have. Those kinds of things.
Is there any animosity currently between you and Survivor producers, and are you in good standing right now with Jeff Probst?
Certainly, I'm disappointed in what I think of as bullying that has gone on from day one. They're in positions of power, and they choose to wield that power in ways that are inappropriate. They always have. It's a very, very common scenario. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these folks don't care much about us as individuals, if anything. They care about the folks that they like, that they become friends with. They care about the dollars that are made on this business. There isn't really a relationship between the people behind the show and us.
Just a number. It's almost like any other
business.
Yeah,
just a number. Property, challenge. Yeah, they don't really care. They truly don't. But there are many, many people who are personally close with some of the folks making the decisions, Jeff Probst in particular. And if he likes you, you have more opportunity. That's just the way it is. No one will tell me, for example, no, I don't think it's accurate to suggest that homophobia doesn't play a role in decisions. Bigotry. These kinds of things are tamped down, and they're not talked about very often, but they exist. And just because these are people in Hollywood and it's their show doesn't mean that it isn't playing a role somehow. Ooh, that naked gay guy, somewhere in their unconscious or conscious, many of them, they don't like it. They don't want to see it. They don't then look at the bigger picture and give equal opportunity to players who are skilled at the game. They just don't.
What happened that made you feel that maybe you were being outed, or because you're homosexual?
The big part of my being a villain, as opposed to people recognizing that I played the game well, had to do with that subtle kind of underlying and sometimes very not so subtle homophobia. And I suffered greatly as a result of it after the was
then the conversation that you had with Mark Burnett, I mean, is it basically him saying that he, was it positive or negative, do you feel, that you were homosexual? Did he?
Well, it was his effort to show me that he was going to try to not be negatively impacted by our culture, that he didn't like the way gay people to that point, he said, have been portrayed or been perceived, and that his relationship with other gay folk, he knew a gay couple is what he told me, encouraged him, motivated him to have someone participate in the show who was someone he felt might represent gay people more positively than he felt they'd been thus far represented.
Would you ever be on Survivor again if the opportunity came up in the future?
For them to have gone through what they went through with me, I withdrew from my last semester of my PhD program that, I'd already paid for. So that's how do I word it? Disappointing to me is one way of looking at it, but I feel it was really inappropriate and irresponsible of them. They had committed. They told me you're in. They knew I was doing all those things to prepare, withdrawing, etc. So for them to just out of the blue kind of, change their minds and then no longer talk about it and now give interviews scapegoating me that are just blatant lies, puts a little bit of a strain on whatever relationship we might have. So, I don't know, is the answer.
Now, have they addressed this and been asked why you're not on the show and given a reason? Or
Yeah, they've used awfully coded language, which again, is reflective of that homophobia. Jeff has repeatedly said, we've had to think about where the show is now, and it's a family show, so I just don't think Rich fits in anymore. That kind of coded language has been used, always in history. It's a family show. It was a family show when I won with 54 million viewers. Families watched a gay guy win the show and had wonderful conversations about what that meant. So it's disappointing. Let's just say that, and I think it's sad to be represented by folks, particularly now that Jeff is executive producer, who I think are missing the point.
Did you ever get any negative response for being gay on TV? I know that some people have received death threats and just negative things or did you ever experience that for people that were homophobic?
Endlessly. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Blatant, crazy, things that people would be arrested for, they would email. I'll go so far as to say my prosecution for tax evasion that I never did was related to my being gay in this small kind of Rhode Island corrupt legal system, where instead of trying to ferret out what's true, we had prosecutors literally persecuting me, talking about my being non-religious and gay in the courtroom, rather than, appropriately trying to get at the facts. They didn't care what the facts were. I didn't owe anything. I was the one who attempted to figure out what taxes were owed. And I didn't even have an assessment of taxes owed until 10 years after I was out of prison for attempting to evade taxes that were never assessed to have been owed. Complicated, I know. People hear taxes, they start falling asleep, so I can't go into it all here in a way that people could follow, but it's just a broken system. And I was subjected to it because I'm gay, not because of anything that actually happened or that I did wrong. Hey, this is Rich Hatch. You're listening to the Domenick Natti Show.